This season was progressing much like just about any other until something absolutely outrageous happened, the likes of which we will almost certainly never see again in this save. My god, it is hot in here. Not as hot as yesterday, I will grant you.
Tell you what, you don't realize how hot it is in here until you step outside. Honestly, right now, there is a swamp in my ass that even Shrek wouldn't live in.
Today, normal service has resumed with me telling you that right now over on stream, we are watching a Hungarian side in a European final. But today, there is a twist because we're actually watching two finals. That's right. The VODs of all the streams can, of course, be found over on the second channel, linked in the description. They go out the day after every single stream. But for now, season 17 of Building a Nation with MTK Budapest was set to be one of the bounce back, with us falling down to 7th in the coefficient chart as of the start of this season. We knew that it was an opportunity for us to, with the points dilution being a lot better, a chance to bounce back and start heading towards 5th, 4th, and hopefully even higher than that. There was a lot on the line this year.
Yes, there he is. It is the man, the myth, the legend, Gideon.
But that is for later. Right now, we need to talk about transfers, but we're going to start with the outs this year because, frankly, there haven't really been a lot of them. But the first of them was Max Bainbridge. This was always going to be the plan with someone like Max, to bring him in, have him for a year, year and a half, and try to flip him on as he joined us on a free transfer, moves to Manchester City for £24.5 million. Now, the reason for this really was we knew that we would never get any more money for him. He was 32 and starting to age out a little bit anyway, and the plan was obviously to try and do exactly that. Another out that very much needed to happen was Ian Robinson. Had a couple of good seasons at the club, if anything lasted longer than I expected, and did very well in that first year. £7.5 million to Porto, but again, he was a free transfer from Aston Villa. Now at 32 years old, it felt like it was the right time to move him on to pastures new. And now you might remember last year, speaking of Porto, I signed a player off of them that I thought was a really bad deal for us. Well, somehow I've turned it into a positive, as I was able to sell Fabio Luis to Ajax for £11 million. I could not believe my eyes. I'd signed him as we just desperately needed someone to cover left and right back for us. That's now been a complete non-issue this year, thanks to some of the brilliant signings we've made, but somehow Ajax decided to pay us more money than even I had paid for him. I paid £8.5 million. A year later, they pay us £11 million. And Fabio Luis has had more of an impact than you might imagine this season for us. But more on that later down the line, as that is really it for the outs. And that sort of should give you an idea of the fact that we really are probably going to have to make some large sales this summer to keep ourselves afloat, as we've been spending money hand over fist. Actually started the year with £250 million in the bank, and we let that get to our heads a little bit. We even spent 42 grand on tea.
Fun fact about this chap, he loves coffee. Weird, I know, but he does. Just loves a cup of coffee.
But the first in was £4.8 million signing Federico Gonzalez. I do not mind one bit picking up players like this chappy here. Fantastic left back. Got on loan to Paxi this year. Unfortunately, they were relegated with him in the team, but still, he played 31 matches. Next is another I'm insanely proud of, Marcelo Nunez, 27-year-old Uruguayan international. Now, he's rated at 3 stars now, but when he joined us, and up until recently, you can see here that he was a 4-star rated player. £4.4 million I played Nacional. I don't know how this man only had 68 league appearances for Nacional in 11 years. He was an Uruguayan international that just wasn't getting any game time at his home club, and we were able to pick him up for an absolute bargain. Then there was another bargain out of Uruguay, this time Darwin de Leon, or Darwin the Lion, as we've been calling him, obviously. Just a fantastically well-rounded striker for £1.2 million from Liverpool FC. Then there was another insane Argentinian signing, Ulysses Anderson, who's been out on loan at Diosdado in the second tier this year, once again getting his football in. He's just such a well-rounded player. £4.9 million, but you could see that 5-star potential is a rare find these days. Next, a slightly too expensive signing, you might say, in fact, as this is where the money got to our head a little bit. This is Serbe Karakalic from Turkey. 2 international caps, though, for Turkey. £10 million was the signing of him from Sivasspor. The main reason for that was that we just felt that we needed someone that could basically be more of a sort of roaming playmaker type of role for this, and we were running out of players that could do that job. He hasn't featured that much this season. 12 league starts, which isn't bad. No assists, though, kind of oddly, but I think he's played a lot of the time, as you can see. Well, a little bit of centre-back, which is ironically where he got his 1 goal. He's not really settled in superbly, but still, I have hope for him. Then, arguably the most expensive signing of the summer, and possibly a mistake in many ways. This is Cristiano Limoeiro, who's joined us from Passos de Ferreira for £17.5 million. Basically, he was one of those players that he was actually 5-star rated at the time, that we just thought had something a little bit to him. Now, he's 6 foot tall, but has 14 jumping reach, so big spring, really quite pacey as well, lovely temp poles. His tackling's a little low, but that marking, heading, he just ticked a lot of the boxes. The red injury proneness is definitely a factor, although he has actually, as far as I know, I've only had 1 injury this season that's kept him out for like 4 or 5 weeks. But now onto some of the bigger signings. This is another one that I'm still quite pleased with, ignoring the star rating a little bit. This is Diego Romero, Mexican international. We signed for £8.75 million from Pumas over in Mexico, of course. Wonder kid, like, he's fast, robust, he's got good tackling, he's good on the wing. He can just play all the way up and down that left-hand side. And I think that he's been a fantastic deputy for us this side on the left because we just had no one there beyond Terra Nova. Him and Darlow always having to cover that role for the last few years. We've needed to have some players that could just be a left back. And then one I am so happy with. This might be one of our best signings of the entire save. This is Andrea Sogos. He's an Italian international left back who is, look at the star ratings on this man. He was free from Palermo of all places. We couldn't believe our eyes when this guy was available. For £28,000 a week, resolute personality, he's still only 26 years old. He is absolutely beautiful. Could not believe it. He doesn't like big matches and he is a tiny bit injury prone, but we've barely seen that this year. He has been absolutely superb. 9 assists from left back this year. He has genuinely been fantastic. Came in as a 3-star player and has worked his way all the way up to being nearly 5 stars. That's the quality this guy has. I'm amazed that no one else went in for this guy and we actually managed to get him, but he has just been so damn good in that left back role. But just in case that didn't wet the whistle, we also had Giannis Celios from Manchester City on a free, worth 11 to 14 million. Has actually played a fair amount this season too and got an England cap, hilariously, because they always do, don't they? Next up, we also picked up Joan Canahan as well, a Mexican international yet again. £7.5 million for him. He probably should get himself a loan spell, but he has still featured, 19 times for us this year. Then there's £3.8 million signing Thomas Hubacek from the Czech Republic. Still only 16 years old. I think there's a lot to like about this guy, and you can see that he's really improving nicely. Determination's dropped a tiny bit, but when it's that high, the only way to go is down, I suppose. I think there's a cracking player here. That driven personality is really going to help him. And the last of the signings I sort of feel like is worth showing you is Julio Remiserio, or we've been calling him Rey Mysterio. But yeah, £350,000 from Celta Vigo. Just getting the opportunity to pick these guys up. Sometimes the occasionally really low Spanish release clauses can come in handy for us. He's gone on loan to Mezcavej. He's had an okay season in the second tier. It's not been a season of the big flashy transfers for us. We've just been picking off players here and there. We have signed up a few more guys on free transfers for this summer, but it's not been quite as fruitful as it has been in recent years. Seems to kind of have an off year and an on year, and this year we really were on it. But still, you can see why we probably are going to have to maybe make a bit of money this year.
Tell you what, the Dutch have been delivering in this save. I don't even know.
Tactically this year, things have actually remained unchanged for a little bit, which has been nice. And as a result, we've been very consistent in the league. One of our best league seasons for a long time, actually. Just the one defeat. You'll also notice that Haladash with 74 points. That's nearly the best total ever for a second place side that Budapest set a few years ago. You can see, though, that we only have 5 teams in Europe for next season. And I think we got the ones that we wanted. Haladash into the Champions League, Kajvara into the Europa, Ferencváros, and finally, the return of Budapest to European football. Mostly this year, we've been using our standard tactic, death by death, pretty much in every competition. The idea just to get that fluidity across all competitions rather than dicking about with changing tactics all the time. We felt that might have been costing us in Europe a little bit, and I feel like it has allowed us to be a little bit more consistent. But now we turn our attention to the real business, and that is European football, because my God, it's been a roller coaster this year. Started off away at the Emirates against Arsenal. Van Dam, Silva and Sam Ingram giving us a very, very comfortable victory and a thoroughly deserved result there. Good work from us. Really nice to get off to a good start, as we knew that we had Liverpool and Barca at home in our next 2 games, which went about as well as you can be expected. Castillo was sent off after 60 minutes, which really didn't help us, but the fact is, it was still one of those games where every chance was missed and Liverpool just took their chances. I mean, look at this.
Bobby Tree bombs in behind. Oh, imagine, with 10 men. Bobby Tree. Oh no, surely not. Oh my God, are you serious? But watch them score their first shot on target now.
We were just kind of a bit bored of it at this point, but it is what it is. We just hope that the luck would hopefully come back around later in the tournament, or at least quite quickly. Sadly, that was not to be, as yet again, almost the same thing had happened, and we'd actually managed to concede 4 goals off of 6 shots on target, and I couldn't really even blame the goalkeeper a lot of the time in this one. Another game that I feel like we were the better side still, less comfortably than against Liverpool, and suddenly we'd got 2 home defeats in a row, and I was just thinking, when is this going to turn around in our favour? Because we've had so much negative luck in the Champions League, and just things not going our way for the last sort of 2.5 seasons now. Ever since our last win of the Champions League, really, we had to change our fortunes, and it was at this point that we then decided to start just using this tactic all the time, even in the league matches, to keep that fluidity. Don't know if that was going to make a difference, but it seems to have done a little bit good for us. So we then went to Portugal, managed to win the game by 2 goals to 1 with Castillo grabbing a brace. Still conceded their only shot on target, as that was really becoming a bit of a pattern. It wasn't even our keeper's fault. They were just really good goals that were just going in. Then we really did pick things up. Travelled to Belgium, humped Club Brugge for 4, Bobby Tree with a brace, Ingram with a goal, Nunez with a goal in this one as well. You might notice noticed Van Dam had dropped out. Basically, he started the season really well, picked up an injury that cost him like 5 or 6 weeks of game time, and then when he came back in, he was just not quite at the races. Bobby had come in for a few matches in the Champions League and had really sort of won that spot back, so he decided to keep him in the team. As we then travel to Atletico, and you can see just really getting the comfortable results going now. Bobby, Velasquez, and Yamin this time with the goals. I mean, those 3 away victories in a row really made a huge difference. We'd actually won 4 away games in the Champions League and lost both of our home games so far this season. So we're still doing okay, but we knew that those games after Christmas would be key. But then we were justified in putting Bobby Tree as our main striker, because this, I'm going to show you this through the purposes of a montage rather than just telling you about it, because this is one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen on Football Manager. Bear in mind, we are in the group stages of the Champions League. This isn't a qualifying game, and even if it was, it would be outrageous. Let's just go.
As Bobby Tree with a gorgeous finish. Oh, Bobby Tree's in again. Bobby Tree, mate. Thought we'd just take him out for a little while as Bobby Tree's through again. Because when Bobby's playing like this, he's unstoppable. I keep watching them, and it's a ball across, and Bobby Tree makes it 7. It's 7-0 in the first half, and Bobby's got 4. That is outrageous. That's the best first half I've ever seen. This is the normal tactic. Banking a Scandi side, don't we? Bobby Tree's through again. Bobby Tree's through again. He's round the goalkeeper, and it's already 9-0. Bobby Tree's in. Slip it through. Bobby goes past the defender. Bobby Tree's through. Bobby Tree makes it 10. Oh my God, he's in again. Bobby Tree's in again. It's 7. It's 11-0, and Bobby Tree has scored 7 goals in a single match. Slips through. Bobby's in again. Bobby's in again. No way. Oh, it's actually gone in! I've frozen mid to that as Bobby scores his 8th goal. I can't believe this is happening. He's literally, my face is telling the story, chat. Please, Bobby. We've missed a penalty in this game already. Don't miss this one. Yes!
Hello, Matto and
He scored 9 in a single match. It's 15-0, and Bobby Tree has scored 9 goals in a competitive match.
Now, I realise Rosenborg, obviously one of the weaker sides in the tournament. That is not an excuse. I'm sorry, it's not. They got into the Champions League group stages. We had an XG of 8.89, 31 shots on... We were 8-0 up at half-time. I expected to win the game 9-0. Nope, we just kept on going. It was unbelievable. It dwarfs what Emmett Doran did to get the ED7 emote from last year's save, where he scored 7 goals against Shakhtar Sologorsk. 15 goals for us and 9 for Bobby. I mean, BT9 all over it. That will never happen again. Also, hilariously, Sam Ingram won man of the match. Scoring 9 goals doesn't win man of the match. He should have 3 match balls. Oh yeah, and then we finished things off with a tight win against Lyon, where once again they scored both of their shots on target. It really was just one of those things where if we didn't score 3 or 4 goals in a game, we knew that our opponents would just get a shot and it would go in. And they weren't even goals that the goalkeeper could really prevent. It was just one of those things. Thankfully though, all of that actually enabled us to somehow come second despite losing 2 matches. Look at that, 19 points, 1 PSG, the Champions League group. Very bizarre. Plus 24 goal difference, 31 goals scored, still only 7 conceded as well. Really good news for us. What wasn't such good news though is down here. You'll notice that Haladash down at the very bottom, 35th, only 4 points on the board. After all we've seen from them in the Conference League and the Europa League in recent seasons, we just figured they had a chance to make something happen, and then they just didn't. They were really, really poor. Got 1 victory in the end, which was against Shakhtar by 3-0. Got a draw in there against Marseille, but they were just losing games like against Stade Rennais. They lost to FC Copenhagen. Some tough losses in there too, but I expected more from them, honestly. And even more annoying, though, was Kisvada, you'll see here, coming 25th place. Basically, as a result of Stade Rennais getting a draw on the final day, it was enough to knock out Kisvada. They so nearly got through, and this is the first time that we've actually had both of our teams go out in the group stage here. So that did not give us a lot of hope, considering it kind of all rested on us now, and with less teams in Europe, we were kind of hoping this would be our chance. So at this point, of course, we got ourselves a bye through to the next round of the Champions League, and that was good times, except we got given 9th place Milan. We got probably the toughest team we could have possibly faced at this point in theory, according to their results. And it was a very weird game. We dominated the early stages of this game, and Tex-Mex finally gave us a deserved lead, but Milan, in the final sort of 15-20 minutes of this game, threw everything at us, and a guy called Milan, Pulpit, actually scored the equaliser for them, and it was deserved. A 1-1 draw. I was a little bit concerned, but I needn't have been, as Castillo decided to be a hero here, off the left-hand side, which is where he's mostly operating now. He seems to have found his form as a left winger there. Scored a hat-trick. Bobby with a goal as well. All of our goals in the second half to give us a 5-0 hammering. I made a slight tweak to the system in this game. I think it was something in this game we changed. I can't remember what it was particularly, but regardless, it gave us an enormous result in the second half. 6-1 on aggregate, cruising through to the next round where we would face Real Madrid. We knew it was going to be very, very tough, but the best thing about this, we knew that if we could get past Real Madrid, we'd face either Chelsea or Ajax in the semi-final, and that would give us a great route to the final, because Ajax, not that amazing, and Chelsea we've got a good record against, but it was about getting past Real Madrid. And unfortunately, in the first leg, we were not doing that by any means. Pedro Henrique gave them the lead. Marvin Alunga made it 2-0. Bobby Tree got on back massively against the run of play here as Carrozzo did not cover himself in glory. And honestly, hold my hands up, we were lucky in this game to not lose this. 4-1, I wouldn't have been able to complain, honestly. We were very, very lucky to keep this to a 2-1. We played the Fortress away and it just did not work for us at all. Switched on and off of it to just sort of defend it once it was 2-1 and try to get a result back at home again, which is exactly what we did. But my goodness me, we threw into an early lead, Silva with a goal, Bobby added another one after that, Castillo added a third goal in the 47th minute, and all of a sudden it was looking very, very good for us. And then 2 goals in 2 minutes out of absolutely nowhere, because they were nowhere in this match, for Real Madrid suddenly put the game back into disrepute, and we could not believe it. But nevertheless, we went to extra time, and then this happened. Pops it across, Bobby Tree, yes, come on! MTK 5, Real Madrid 4, Bobby Tree with the unbelievable header of dreams. Once again, Bobbert Tree, the hero, 118th minute goal, sending us through to the semi-finals of the Champions League, and we knew that we were being with a great chance at going further, because we would play Ajax, who somehow had knocked out Barcelona by winning 4-2 at the Camp Nou, and then Chelsea by winning 4-2 at Stamford Bridge. Sky Vink basically was carrying them, but he would be injured for our tie. And boy, oh boy, did it matter. We went to Amsterdam and humped them 5-0 in the first leg. Velázquez, Ingram, Dala, Van Dam, there was one other goal in there too, from Vojislav Milovanovic on top of that. And we'd basically already confirmed our place in the Champions League final after the first leg. Sam Ingram, yet again, world-class performance from him. He's not even an unsung hero anymore, he's just a hero. But we weren't content with that, as we went out in the second leg and played even better. Another 5-0 victory for a 10-0 semi-final of the Champions League win. Castillo, Velázquez, Carpenu, and 2 for Sam Van Dam off the bench. We still underperformed. 5.87 XG in this game. Absolutely creamed them. That was the only thing they had. You'll also note the red card for Fabio Luis, the player we sold to Ajax in the summer, gets the red card, and we went and scored 4 more goals after the straight red, where he just absolutely destroyed someone. We're in the Champions League final, where we will face Liverpool, which is what's going to be going on over on stream right now, or maybe not right now, depending on when you're watching this. But the team that beat us in the group stages, we faced Liverpool for a chance to win our 3rd Champions League of the save, and boy oh boy do we need it. But what a run it's been, what a season it's been. We've also broke the record for the most number of goals in a Champions League. We're up to 52 in a season, and Bobby has 18 in the Champions League, which could also be a record. But that's enough of that. Let's talk other Hungarian teams. Our sole representative in the Europa League this year was Ferencváros, and it's nice to see them back winning games and looking much more competitive. They struggled a little bit in the Conference League last year. Europa League, no such luck for them, in a bad way, or rather in a good way. 5 wins, Sturm Graz, Braga, Hajduk Split, Istanbul Başakşehir, like 4 wins in their 4 home games without conceding a goal is very, very impressive from them. Only conceded 5 in the entire tournament, 17 points, 5th place in the Europa League is very good news. Got the bye, everything was looking good. But then they got drawn against Athletic Club of Spain. That said, a 0-0 draw in Spain gave them super big hopes of potentially winning at home and sneaking through to the next round. We thought, you know what, if they get to the quarterfinals, that's really good news. And they only went and bloody done it in absolute style. 4-0. Just insane result against a team like Athletic Club. That's a massive win for them, and that would leave them up against Nice in the next game, and we thought, you know what, that's actually winnable. Sadly, they went to France and lost 3-1 in that first leg. Blaž Jurin gave them the lead, but then they gave it away there with Laborda and Kareem's goals. Not ideal. Second leg wasn't quite good enough. A 0-0 draw at home. They go out of the quarterfinals, but they've done us proud there with a good result in the group, getting through a round as well. It's just good points on the board that we needed for a team like Ferencváros. The biggest issue for us as well was the fact that Haladáš ended up in the Champions League. They knocked out Midtjylland in the playoff round, and I would have much rather had Haladáš in the Europa League, but that's just how things go. As we saw how they performed in the Champions League, they could have easily been a team that could challenge in this tournament, maybe next year, eh? But that leaves us, of course, with the Europa Conference League. Now, you know that there's another team in a final, so that means it has to come from the Conference League. And well, you'll see, both of our sides did actually manage to get through. Kecskmet coming 16th after a really poor start. They really did struggle. Thankfully, we were able to win their final match, which was against IMT in the end, to sneak through in 16th spot, which meant top half, of course. Only the 8 points on the board. Debrecen, on the other hand, were unbelievable. Second in the group, 6 wins out of 6, only fell behind Roma on goal difference in the end, because it did end up going to goal difference on account of them, neither of them playing the same oppositions in there. They didn't concede a single goal in the entire group stage. In fact, not only that, they'd played 2 rounds of qualifying. In their 10 matches in the Conference League up till this point, they'd conceded 1 goal, which was against FC Twente. 1 goal conceded in 10 games. They were so damn miserly and looking phenomenal. That, of course, meant they got a bye through, but Kecskmet had to play another round. Well, first up, they got a 1-1 draw away at Slovan Bratislava. We figured getting a draw away from home usually means that the Hungarian sides are pretty strong at home, and we felt they had a good chance at progression, which they did, albeit narrowly, with Kevin Griffiths, of course, the most boring human being on earth, grabbing them the winning goal, but it was enough to progress them to the round of 16. Unfortunately, they drew West Ham here. A 1-1 draw at home in the first game at least gave them a chance, but it was always going to be a tough one. The red card for Alves Doksili didn't exactly help, but at least it was coefficient points, right? Debrecen, though, got a brilliant 2-0 victory away at Famalicão. Fantastic result for them. The red card already got the away result. Brilliant news. In the second leg, though, weirdly, they drew 1-1 at home, but they were still able to sneak through 3-1 on aggregate. West Ham with the 2-0 victory over Kecskmet wasn't likely to get beyond that. West Ham are a very, very tough team indeed. So Kecskmet fall out now, but that means Debrecen was still in. And then a 1-1 draw at home to Schalke. Again, we always feel like if they get the draw away from home, coming back home, they've got a great shot at things. Unfortunately, a draw at home wasn't particularly confident for us. But then, magically, Gaida with the winning goal. They won in Germany and got themselves through to the semi-finals of the Conference League. Massive result. We actually knew about this before we saw the fixture, because our game against them got rearranged to schedule their game in the next round against West Ham United, who just put 8 past Anderlecht. But they then got a draw at the London Stadium. A 0-0 draw in London as Hertha had slapped Roma for 6. And then it happened. Extra time, they did it though. Lopez, a player I'd signed specifically to loan to Debrecen to fill up the gap that they'd lost from a striker they'd gone, and that didn't make any sense, you know what I mean, and they managed to do it. They won. Hertha put 8 past Roma. I'd 8 to be a Roma fan right now, but there you go. 2-1. Debrecen will be in the Europa Conference League final against Hertha. I just don't know. I thought that when they drew against West Ham, it was game over for them, but they managed to put it past them. I just don't know. This will be the 5th time in the save now, I think it's the 5th time, that we've had a Hungarian side reach the Conference League final. I just don't know what to make of it, honestly. Surely, one of these days, they're going to get a result in one of these finals. But we now have 2 finals to watch today for the first time ever. We're going to be watching the Debrecen one first, which obviously takes place today, in-game, that is. So we're going to be watching that, of course, and then going over to our very own final against Liverpool. It is going to be an action-packed stream, my friends, where potentially we could come out of it with 2 European trophies. You can see on the year, we're up to 18.5. Now, that's one of the benefits of only having 6 teams in Europe. So, of course, we're a year delayed. So, despite being 7th, we had 6 teams in this year. Next year, we officially are 7th, and thus we will have only 5 teams. But 18.5 will be our best season of the last 5 years, which is really, really important to just sort of keep us in there. It's next year where we'll make the real ground up, that we are not going to gain any spots because of the sheer gap between us and everybody else at the moment. But that's what next year happens. So that means we're going to have 2 straight seasons of having 5 teams in Europe. If they start to perform in those lower categories, we could have some absolutely monstrous years coming up that will overtake years like 13.9 and a 16.2. Those next 2 years, I want to be aiming for 20 points in both of those years to gain us like 11 points on those teams around us and potentially get us into the battle for not just top 4, but top 2. Point being, we're down, but we're not out, and you can clearly see that we are now bouncing back in the correct direction, and that's all we wanted to happen. Now, to the youth intake. The first proper youth intake, I suppose, for Jochen Sauer. It's going to take a little while for him to settle in still. We were promised a 1.5 stars. It wasn't great, and we were only delivered a star. But in his defense, you can see that the youth intake isn't that bad. It was still only a 1-star youth intake, but at least we have a guy here in Andras Kakeji who's fine. Like, one thing I will say is that at least the personalities we're getting on the players are much better now. We're not getting every player having low determination as their personality, which seemed to happen for like a 10-year period. Now they're at least getting better personalities with higher determination. Still no world beaters in the youth intake, particularly this year, but it's nice to see some progress being made. Team stats-wise, it's been a miracle year for Bobby Tree. Ever since he kind of took that spot in the team, he's been unstoppable ever since. 42 goals this year, 49 goal contributions, and he's obviously still got the Champions League final to play. Bear in mind, we go into that with a fully fresh team, no injuries to key players, no suspensions. We can play the full strength team in there. Van Dam did still score 25 goals this year. Only 5 assists, as his role was slightly altered this year. But still, it's good to see him get 25 goals. He's sort of resumed his role as the backup striker currently, as Bobby has genuinely been flawless this year. Can't take that away. But Ingram again, 22 goals and 10 assists. Ingram has had 2 back-to-back world-class seasons for us, and I can't believe we got him for free. Castillo as well, though. 17 goals and 17 assists off that left-hand side. He was the most creative player in the entire team. Played almost the entire year off that left wing. Really enjoyed his work. When you look at assists as well, you can see Darla with 10, Yamin with 9 as well. And look at that Sogos. 9 assists for Sogos this year has been superb. Exactly what we wanted out of a left back. He's been a game changer. Over to the loan farm. Obviously, the thing with the loan extensions worked brilliantly. So you can see that we've got some nice, some 1 years on some guys and some extra years on the other guys here. Top goal scorer this year was hilariously Cock Ringerling. Cock Ringerling actually scored 39 goals for Zalagaseg. But look, Blaz Jurin now absolutely killing it for Ferencváros. He's up to being 3.5 star current ability as well. 31 goals for them, and I'll be honest, he's starting to look a little bit world-class too. 21 caps for Croatia, only 1 goal, weirdly, but he's starting to become the striker that we know he can be. Now, financially, yeah, it's not great. 107 million in the bank. We've lost 113 million this year because, well, we're going to get some sponsorships coming in soon, which will offset some of that a little bit, like 50 million in sponsorships, so bear that in mind as well. But it's clearly because we haven't really sold that many players. We've maybe sold 40 million pounds worth this year whilst spending 70, 80 million plus all the wages and other stuff like that. It's definitely one of those factors that has to be taken into account. I think this year is definitely going to be a year where we have to make profit rather than the other way around. I don't think it's going to be a heavily buying year for us. It's going to be more likely one where we try to stabilise the ship a little bit. But we are selling some other players to Hungarian sides, which should ease the wage bill a little bit as well. And that really is the plan. I don't want to keep any longer than this because we've got so much stuff to do over on stream right now. First the Debrecen final, then our final final against Liverpool on full match, I won't be suited up. Obviously, it's going to be ridiculously hot. I'm actually wiping myself down recording this right now. Then after that, we're going to be doing some transfer business. It is going to be a busy old Tuesday. If you have enjoyed this, drop a like. That'd be fantastic. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I stream on Twitch. Obviously, go follow over there, and I'll see you guys very soon. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.